So, another day, another brutal dip for cryptocurrency led by Bitcoin and a FUD attack out of China. I'm kind of beginning to wonder when China is going to run out of ammunition every few days, every few weeks, every few months. For years now, they're banning Bitcoin. It seems like ostensibly they've done that to a certain extent finally in Sichuan province. Part of me is almost kind of relieved because it's like, okay, so you've banned it, right? We can get beyond this talking point now. We're done. We can move on. We can stop worrying about China because in my opinion, they've had far too much influence over the market. Now, we're going to take a look at this. I don't know specifically with regard to like the authenticity of this piece. I can't verify it 100%. It's something I found on Twitter, but it's very interesting. Let's read this first. Things China doesn't want to know. By the way, guys, we're going to launch into this video. Not only we're going to be discussing the FUD at the level of China's agricultural bank, but there's another bank, TSB, that's barring several million, like 5+ million clients from using cryptocurrency. That seemingly out of nowhere, randomly, right, just happened to be released at the level of press at the same time as this China news, which both stories, by the way, just happened to be released subsequent to the Bitcoin death cross. If you're not kind of reading between my intonation here, then you can be assured that I feel this is coordinated. Like, this is absolutely coordinated FUD. It is ridiculous, and this is more than anything, a play for China to control what is going to be their new digital currency, their digital yuan, CBDC. So we're going to get into that discussion of those banks. A little bit of negativity, unfortunately, that we have to cover just from an objective sense in this video. But we're also going to be discussing Dogecoin. You guys may have seen the Dogecoin, the Doge car crash. We're going to be discussing positive news, a little bit out of Russia, actually. Michael Saylor buying the dip like a boss. And then we have a Chainlink update. If you guys like this kind of content, Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrency, altcoins, be sure to like and subscribe to Altcoin Buzz News. No one can accuse us of being fair weather fans. We're out there covering the developments, whether positive or negative, on a daily basis. If you guys appreciate what it is we do, like and subscribe. Okay, let's take a look here at this tweet. Again, I can't vouch 100% for its accuracy, but I am led to believe that it's authentic. So, things China doesn't want you to know. At Truth About China. Over 90% of China's Bitcoin mining capacity, or 1/3 of the global crypto processing power, was shut down on Sunday. The CCP, that's the Chinese Communist Party, claims that this is to save energy. That is absolutely false. Nothing could be further from the truth. So let's play the video here. As you can see, purportedly the 21st of June, Sichuan province, you have this individual, whether he works for the mining company or he's a federal agent of some kind. You can see they're dumping miners on the street, mining hardware, that is, just totally gutting this facility, apparently. What Bitcoin farms in China looked like before the shutdown, as you can see here, very, very industrial, very large, and it seems like that's all, for the most part, been eradicated. Now, I would be surprised that, again, I'm not Chinese. I don't have my ear to the ground as far as what's happening in Sichuan exactly. If you are perhaps a Chinese member of the Altcoin Buzz army hailing from Sichuan, I'd love to hear about it. By the way, I think you guys make a very strong curry. I was in Sichuan years and years and years ago. Had nothing to do with Bitcoin, but I thought it was a great province. And I saw the pandas, and I really enjoyed your food. Extremely spicy, though. Getting back to the point here, again, the Chinese Communist Party is claiming that this is all about energy. When, if ever, can you point to an example where the CCP has been concerned about energy? It has been concerned about their carbon or climate footprint on the world. You need only to kind of revisit any discussion about Chinese coal plants to realize that this is complete. I mean complete BS. Like, they have just pulled this out of their bums. It's likely just another step, as this individual, things China doesn't want you to know, suggests. It's likely just another step in their quest for complete control over all money in China. And I believe that's much, much more likely. This has everything to do with, and I talked about this the other day, we talked about the fact that this has everything to do with their upcoming CBDC, Central Bank Digital Currency, which they are spearheading. They want to be a global first, a global leader in that capacity. And I am of the opinion, I was kind of the opinion that maybe the CCP felt that, look, we can kind of contend with Bitcoin. We can kind of ignore it, but that's no longer a viable strategy for them. As you guys know, any upstart has a familiar story. First, they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. I think it's very clear at this stage right now, we're fighting. We're fighting, and it's a fight all over the world. China's not going to have the last laugh because China can do things like this. They can destroy mining facilities in Sichuan. They can do this, they can eradicate 100% of the processing power in their country. Theoretically, in practice, I don't know. But even if they do that, the rest of the world is going to pick up the slack. And we're going to see later on in this video some positives about that, again, out of Russia, out of Paraguay, and those other Central and South American countries. By the way, I didn't mention it, we're also giving away $50 worth of Ethereum at the end of today's video, and Ethereum is quite down, unfortunately. So if you win $50 worth of ETH, that means you're getting more Ether in these giveaways. Jameson Lopp here with an excellent point that I think like subconsciously was something that I took for granted, but just sometimes when you see something like written out and it's just there, it's crisp, it's succinct, it's like, yes, absolutely. Here's what he had to say. If China's Bitcoin bans were actually effective, then they wouldn't have to keep loudly reiterating them. I agree. This is not about, in a sense, how do I phrase this? It's the real deal here. The crux of it is that this is social engineering. This is training at a mass level. This is the Chinese CCP, or the CCP, I should say, very much projecting to the populace that if you involve yourself in any way in this, you're going to get in trouble. Because the reality is that, there are probably all kinds of different pockets of people, even in China, dabbling in Bitcoin mining and cryptocurrency. It's much easier for the CCP to crack down on a mega industrial farm because obviously they can send inspectors, they can track energy inflows, outflows, that kind of thing. Look, just the architecture of this building, you'd be able to understand that something is going on. It's easier to crack down on that, but they cannot crack down on 1.5 billion or however many people in China, a percentage of which are inevitably going to move and gravitate towards Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. They can't do it. They can't realistically do that. No government can ban cryptocurrency, even crypto mining, use of cryptocurrency or Bitcoin mining, what have you. All they can really do is keep barking and keep kind of projecting these threats. And they're going to make examples out of people. They're going to punish people. They're going to be very punitive, in fact, in anecdotal circumstances, but they can't go after everybody. And that's why, to Jameson's point here, it's not about an effective ban that they just announced once. It's about years and years and years and years and years of repeating the same message, so that psychologically people just, take themselves out of the equation and they prevent themselves from participating in these activities out of fear, right? But that's what it is. It's not an effective ban. It's more along the lines of propaganda, suggesting to people over the course of years and years and years, programming them to be afraid to be involved in this space. Excellent point. I think it's worth repeating. If China's Bitcoin bans were actually effective, then they wouldn't have to keep loudly reiterating them. I couldn't agree more. So this is the news. Likely you've heard about it by now, but if not, here's a good summary on Cointelegraph.com. Banks fall in line as China's central bank cracks down on crypto accounts. So not only do you have some of these mining facilities that are just being raided, but you also have the banking infrastructure that is now getting involved. So the Agricultural Bank of China, which is the world's third largest bank by assets, has indicated it will follow the PBOC Q, a People's Bank of China's Q, and work to stamp out its clients' crypto-related activities. So they're set to implement Beijing's first anti-cryptocurrency measures and rigorously vet their clients to ensure they're not engaged in any form of illegal activities involving crypto transactions, crypto trading or crypto mining. Here's what they had to say, quote, institutions must comprehensively investigate and identify virtual currency exchanges and over-the-counter dealers, capital accounts, and cut off transaction funds, payments, links in a timely manner. They must analyze the capital transaction of characteristics of virtual currency trading hype activities and ensure that relevant monitoring and handling measures are implemented. So that's according to an official statement from the People's Bank of China, which reiterated that all banks and payment institutions must, quote, not provide account opening or registration for virtual currency related activities. So it seems they're getting pretty serious. Again, we've had this news about China FUD for weeks now, going back to the first half of May. There were kind of rumblings and rumors about a potential cryptocurrency ban. It looks like this is kind of the manifestation of that ban. Unfortunately, there is a real world impact because if these numbers are to be believed here, 90% of China's Bitcoin mining capacity, that's 1/3 of the global crypto processing power. If all of these machines are just shut down or destroyed or the power is just cut off like overnight, that, definitely affects the equilibrium of Bitcoin. Not in a sense that's going to compromise the network, but it does mean that, it does affect the difficulty. It does affect the hash rate. So you're going to look at sort of, I think I saw a figure suggesting that about 45% of Bitcoin's hash rate, it's been decreased to that effect, about 45%. Which, in the grand scheme of things, it's kind of arbitrary, but, that is an indication of the strength of the network. So it's not surprising in a sense that price would follow in the short term. Like I said, I don't believe for a second that this is just random news, that they just waited and decided, we'll probably publish this on Sunday, Monday, whatever. They waited specifically for Bitcoin's death cross to come into effect, which otherwise I don't think would have had personally a major impact. Just my point of view. I'm not exactly a chart analyst, but I think we've had enough FUD, enough hurt, enough pain. But, I know. They have specifically decided to kick us while we're down for maximum impact here. They are going for maximum blunt force with this press release. China waiting to drop the hammer, literally, the Communist Party, right? Waiting to drop the hammer and sickle on us at a time that we were down. They waited for the Bitcoin death cross, then they released this news, and it's been demoralizing, I'm not going to lie, but at the same time, it's not going to stop anything. It's not going to stop Bitcoin. And we're going to see a couple of stories that attest to that in just a second. I first want to cover the other bit of negative news here. Now, to a lesser extent, but it's still negative news. Again, just so happens to come out at the time of the Bitcoin death cross. And for every bank that we do hear, getting into Bitcoin, there are some in Switzerland, there are some in smaller countries that, names that you may not have heard about, but we never get the positive mainstream coverage of those institutions or banks. We tend to focus on the negative. Negativity has a larger impact for the most in this space, unfortunately. Also on Cointelegraph.com, Bank TSB set to bar 5.4 million customers from buying crypto. Bank TSB is set to become the latest financial institution in the United Kingdom to prevent customers from investing in crypto. Between a lot of the draconian, let's call them C19 measures that we've seen in the UK. By the way, there's some bad ones here in Canada as well. But the focus right now is on the UK and China. My point was that between some of these very draconian measures that we've seen over the last year, maybe 18 months in the UK at the level of social compliance, let's put it that way, and between the Communist Party's death grip on the populace of China, their social credit scores, the atrocities happening in that country, between these two nations here and the fact that the trend is that their banking systems are really stomping on what is a revolutionary monetary system geared toward liberty. I got to say, I would not want to live in either of these two countries. I know there are positives to be said about the UK. I have nothing against the UK or its people. I think they're great. China, I can even say for China, I have nothing against the people of China, but some of these governments are just showing signs, in my opinion, of absurd, of record level tyranny. Because from the perspective of a libertarian, kind of freedom-oriented monetary network, that to me is probably the most important development so far of the 21st century. And if they decide to come down on it, then I don't know. That's something that's worth fighting against, in my personal opinion. I'm not calling for violence. I'm not calling for anything too sensational, but a little bit of civil disobedience, I think, is in order. Just my point of view. So you can read about this further here. Again, UK-based institution TSB, they're soon going to ban over 5.4 million customers from buying Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency. On what basis? Can you tell me on what basis? Based on what law? Based on the fact that they are weakened by the implementation, by the proliferation of Bitcoin. So what? I prefer that TSB be weak. And if there's a better argument, I'd like to hear it. But based on what? This is such an assault on freedoms and just the decency of everyday people to be able to make their own decisions. I find this kind of stuff sickening. Just a bit of an aside here, just a thought experiment, but I've often thought about that. If we ever truly descend into Mad Max territory, then, you know, if really everything does crumble apart and hit the fan, I will still be holding my Bitcoin. I will still be holding my Ethereum, believe me. And if things ever reach a level where, you know, just like it's absolute chaos across the let's call them more established nations of the world, and we come to a point where there are criminal charges levied against anybody involved in cryptocurrency. I'm happy to fight that fight. You know, honestly, I'm happy to fight that fight. I've often thought about that. If it ever comes to the point where they're going to be forcefully, let's put it this way, confiscating my assets, I've made a very firm decision, just psychologically ahead of time, just in case, as a contingency, that I will fight that I will gladly serve jail time if that's the kind of thing. I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not saying it's even likely. But when you look at the trajectory of some of these countries, you know, China, I'm not as surprised, but the UK, all I can say, and when I say, you know, civil disobedience, that kind of stuff, it's not as intense as it sounds. It just means that, in my opinion, if I were a client of TSB and they came at me and they said, hey, you can't be involved in cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, I would say, all right, I guess I can't be involved with TSB. Thank you very much. Close my account, effective immediately. You guys are terrible. So I don't know, kind of speaking off the cuff here and probably saying a lot of different things, but basically nobody is going to pry my livelihood, everything that I've worked for, my investments, which have grown significantly in cryptocurrency. Nobody's going to pry that out of my hands, from my cold, dead hands. I have like a Second Amendment attitude for cryptocurrency. And I'm not like a gun guy or anything, but I have that mentality when it comes to cryptocurrency. You guys will never get it. That's how I feel personally. So let me know how you feel about that. I just feel it's important to kind of like, you know, sit up straight and be confident and show resolve against some of these actions, which are absolutely tyrannical, in my opinion. But for all of these instances of tyranny, we do have some positive news here, and this is kind of the flip side of the story. And I just find the juxtaposition to be very interesting. Because for every, you know, Chinese Communist Party dictate, and for every agricultural bank, and for every TSB bank that we have that's just absolutely smashing the freedoms of its citizens, we have these countries all over the world that are basically saying, yeah, we're going to go a different way. We're actually going to legally implement Bitcoin as nationwide legal tender. That's great. El Salvador, you know, we know that story, not to rehash any of that. Now, Panama. And this is from not that long, well, a few days ago, actually. But Panama, this is kind of old news, to present crypto-related bill in July. So that's the next sort of piece of news that we can expect from Panama. There's nothing to comment on just yet, but they're pursuing legislation toward the legalization of Bitcoin as national legal tender. That's great. Don't forget Paraguay. Paraguay lawmaker to present Bitcoin legislation next month, also in July. So you see what I mean? Like, there's this sharp contrast between China and now, unfortunately, the UK versus so many of these other, I would argue, more freedom-oriented countries, at least economically, of the world. Actually, to clarify, I'm not saying Paraguay or Panama or El Salvador are, you know, the most liberty-embracing nations on earth. They're probably not the freest places you can live. They have their problems. Okay, I get that. I'm not some kind of geopolitical scientist that knows everything about these nations. But at the level of what they're doing with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, I can get behind that. I agree with them at that level. Okay, that's all I'm saying. We have some interesting news regarding, so just slightly more FUD, I suppose, to pivot back. You guys may have heard about this. I don't want to spend any time on it. Many people are suggesting that the Dogecoin car has crashed, and therefore the price of Dogecoin has also crashed, has plummeted. Dogecoin's sponsorship at yesterday's NASCAR race turned out to be a dud. So you can kind of look at the price of Dogecoin and say, oh my goodness, yeah, it's down significantly, down, wow, 15.3% today, which sounds pretty bad. Look, I don't think it has anything to do with the crash of a NASCAR. Who cares? The rest of the market is also down very significantly. As you can see here, market is down 5.4%. It's just a bloody day for everything. Bitcoin itself is down 4.3%. Excuse me, when Bitcoin bleeds, so too do all the other altcoins. And typically, the altcoins bleed to a greater extent. Now, you could argue that, okay, but altcoins right now, this particular snapshot at the time of this recording are down 4, 5, 6, maybe 7%. And Dogecoin is down 15, 16%. Look, fine, but does a car crash really does that like boil down to the most important development, whether positive or negative, for the price of Dogecoin? I don't think so. I think this more had to do overall with its kind of descending trend, the decreasing importance of Dogecoin really ever since, you could argue, Elon Musk's SNL appearance. I think Doge is just less and less relevant. I don't hate it. I don't think it's the worst project, to be honest, in the world, but it's certainly not worthy here of being in the top 10 or even the top, dare I say, 100. That's just my personal point of view. So it has more to do with that than it has to do with the crash. But maybe, I often think like if we all lived in, if this life, people say like this world is a simulation, okay, maybe. And by the way, I'm serious. I think that's actually quite probable. If you look at the statistics and you look at the mental math experiments, I think that's quite probable that we're all bits and bytes, zeros and one, relaying information somewhere in a computer, somewhere in a galactic supercomputer, maybe quantum computer, who knows? So I think it's possible that we're in a simulation. But sometimes I think like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to look at life? Like sometimes I studied English literature and different forms of literature. Wouldn't it be interesting if you analyzed your life, your experience, the way you would analyze a classical literary work? And if you were to read something, 21st century based literary style piece of work about whatever, it could be about any topic. And there was a passage about the mighty Dogecoin whose car then crashed during the NASCAR lap, like that would have significance. That would indicate to you that, okay, there's a problem here. There's an issue with Dogecoin. It wasn't meant to be. The universe deemed that this is not right. And it kind of set things straight again with that crash. I don't necessarily subscribe to that in real life, but sometimes I think about that. Like it would be cool if we analyzed real life in the way that we analyzed so many of our literary favorites. Just a thought experiment. Doesn't really have any bearing here, but I wanted to throw it out. Okay, back to the positive news here. Michael Saylor, like a boss. Check this out. I've always predicted that MicroStrategy, and now their holding company, MicroStrategy, would relatively soon hit 100,000 Bitcoin. They have done it on this dip here. So Michael Saylor here. MicroStrategy has purchased an additional 13,005 Bitcoins for about $489 million in cash at an average price of $37,617 per Bitcoin. As of the 21st of June, today, we hodl 105,085 Bitcoin acquired for about $2.741 billion at an average price of about at an average price of about 26,000 Bitcoin. Some are saying that he didn't time it perfectly right because, of course, $37,000, like, okay, we're below that now. So he's technically at a loss with that most recent purchase of $13,000. Believe me, he doesn't care. You listen to any long form podcast of Michael Saylor, he's talking about the long term, like he's talking about a century from now. So he doesn't care. He's not looking for a perfect bottom. We also have this update out of CryptoPotato.com. Russian billionaire Oleg Deripaska urges Bank of Russia to move to Bitcoin. I don't think that's ever going to happen, at least not like in an outright sense, because actually that would really signal, like as much as I'm for Bitcoin adoption, like the Bank of Russia adopting Bitcoin, I think would spark a lot of international turmoil. So maybe that's one that I'm not rooting for. And I'm not suggesting it's going to happen with the Bank of Russia. I think they're probably, they're a little bit too, not compromised, but it's not something that they would choose to do out of necessity for tact right now and diplomacy. That's kind of my point of view. But this just goes to show that these discussions are happening and that billionaires around the world are hip to what's happening. You think Oleg Deripaska, I don't know how much he's worth, but do you think he cares that China's coming out with yet another round of FUD and that Bitcoin dropped from 35 to 32, 31, whatever? Do you think he cares about that? Do you think he's panicking? Or do you think maybe, given the nature of these discussions, even at a personal level, do you think maybe he's accumulating? Do you think maybe the smart money is buying? I'll leave that up to you guys. One more brief update here before we launch into our $50 Ethereum giveaway. Chainlink, which is suffering mightily right now. Chainlink down like below $20. I can't believe it. A good time to scoop it up, in my opinion. Not financial advice, but that's what I've done. Chainlink, at Chainlink. Decentralized reinsurance platform. Reinsure will integrate Chainlink price feeds on Binance Chain and Polkadot to price policies, risks, and payouts. It will also use Chainlink's premium data within parametric insurance like weather and flight coverage. You guys can read more about that on medium.com. Let's get into our $50 Ether giveaway. All right, members of the Altcoin Buzz Army, you know the rules, or at least you should, in order to be eligible to win $50 worth of ETH, which we do give away, by the way, on a daily basis. Number one, you got to like the video. 71 likes yesterday's video, but 699 comments, so more of you should be liking the video. Number two, you do have to comment with the word Ethereum or the letters ETH, ETH. And number three, you have to subscribe to this new channel, Altcoin Buzz News. By the way, I think very soon we're talking about it, but very soon we're going to be issuing some different perks, some different formats. We're going to offer the opportunity for members to join. We can do some exclusive content, and we'll be discussing that in the days and weeks to come. But appreciate your patronage so far. Of course, we're trying to grow the channel from a news perspective. So again, like, subscribe, and comment with the letters ETH or the word Ethereum. Taking a look at yesterday's video, we discussed the Bitcoin death cross and the mining situation out of Sichuan, which unfortunately has worsened since the time of yesterday's video. I'm going to go ahead and take the URL from that particular publication. Okay, we go over to the random comment picker on Raffle Dash, and as long as you meet those criteria, and as long as you're not a previous winner, then you stand a chance to win. Today's winner, we have P. Tristan. You do amazing content. ETH, love. Well, thank you, my man. Thank you. Do I call you P? Do I call you Tristan? I'm going to call you Tristan. Thank you very much, good sir. I thank you for your viewership. Tristan, please go back to yesterday's comment in this video. So yesterday's video, go back to the video, find your comment in this particular video. And when I say your comment, I mean this one right here. Please find your comment and reply with this same P. Tristan YouTube profile. Reply to your own comment with the Ethereum address to which you would like us to send you your $50 worth of Ether. Congratulations, you won. Guys, none of this is financial advice, as you know, but in order to stay up to speed with everything that is happening in this space, my recommendation is that you follow us on all the regular social media channels. By the way, that includes Facebook, that includes Twitter, that includes Telegram as well. You should join what's appearing right now. This is our Trade Signals Telegram group. I always pin that to the top of the comments. Also, just like this video, it's not financial advice, but we discuss trade signals, we discuss chart analysis, price analysis, and project updates. You're very welcome to join that discussion. So once again, best of luck, guys. If you do choose to invest on this Monday, hang in there. This FUD too shall pass. We have brighter days ahead. Let China do what it wants to do. We don't care. Ultimately, things are, at a global level. Ask yourself, is Bitcoin going to zero, or is it going to 100,000, 200, 3, 4, 500,000, $1 million? It's a binary decision, right? If in the long term you feel Bitcoin is going to be higher than it is today, then now's the time to buy and hold, not financial advice. If you feel that Bitcoin is going to zero, go ahead and sell. But that's what it comes down to. Do you feel that Bitcoin's future is brighter than the present and its past, or not? It's your call. Best of luck, guys. If you do choose to invest, once again, have a great Monday, a great start to your week. As always, we do hope to see you again soon in our next video. Take care.